Blarla. Hello peeps and welcome back to 2 Point Hospital. Welcome back to Flottering, where as you can see I have actually done what I said I was going to do. So in between episodes I have built the general diagnosis room, and we also have of course cardiology, which I built at the end of the last episode. And so what we're doing here is we're sort of turning the back end of this building into a diagnosis area, which means it needs its own GP office. That's how I like to do it. So we have GP offices near reception so that peeps coming in can go straight to GP for their initial diagnosis, but then if anybody here they're having trouble diagnosing, they can send them to this area here for further diagnosis. And once they've been through further diagnosis, as we know, they like to go back to the GP's office. Well, I don't want them to come back here. I would rather they came to a different office. So we've got one here now. This is our sort of further diagnosis GP, if you will, and we're sort of leaving treatment clinics over in this area, because once they're over here, they're cured, they leave. Okay, so we have that, and we're also gearing up to have a second a second psychiatry office as well, because we've got a lot of people here building up. Now that we're sort of moving out the ones that are coming here for further diagnosis, we're giving additional room for that. So we're getting quite a large build-up of people that just need treating at psychiatry. It's the same with the ward. We've still got this build-up of people where their diagnosis still isn't certain. And we can see here that out of the 5 queuing, only 2 of them are actually in need of cure at the ward. So the hope is that adding these rooms here will help reduce the need on these 2 rooms. But of course, this room still has a large demand on it for just simple cures. Hence, we've built this. And what's good about these 2 rooms is they are actually pretty good, sometimes better for further diagnosis than the ward or the psychiatry. Not always, but sometimes. For example, if a GP is not quite good enough to diagnose mime crisis, for example, so we can and they're not sure entirely what it is, a good GP would send them to psychiatry for further diagnosis, because they're smart enough to know that it's to do with psychiatry, but not able to necessarily decide on the strain, as I like to call it. They might know it's mime crisis. I mean, it's quite obvious, but they might not know exactly what strain. So they send them to psychiatry for further diagnosis. A bad GP might send them to general diagnosis, which is not going to be as powerful at diagnosing mime crisis as a psychiatrist would be. So, giving them more options will definitely alleviate pressure on these 2 rooms, because there are better options in some cases, but not all, as explained. So, we're giving it some thought, but of course with all these rooms, we're adding a lot more value to the hospital. So we can also expect, as this is going up, to get even more people in. So every time we expand, every time we add value, we are actually encouraging more people to come to the hospital. And I like to just do that on a slow, controlled basis. I don't like to expand too quickly. You certainly could expand quickly, but it is almost like a rolling carriage that just speeds up until the wheels fall off. You'll just end up with a massive hospital and queues everywhere, and then you'll get a vomit wave and people die everywhere, then your reputation will drop. and then less people come to the hospital, so that you can start catching up again. And I want to avoid that. If I can grow steadily, then hopefully I'll be able to avoid those sort of mass crashes as best as humanly possible. I want to keep deaths and all that down to an absolute minimum. Also, building these rooms means we need more staff to operate them, clearly. So let's have a look here. So we've instantly got a nurse sign because both these rooms will need a nurse. If we look at the info, it does say, we need a nurse. A nurse trained in diagnosis is particularly good, obviously. So if we look at what staff we only have 3 nurses. And if we have a look at these nurses, let's just go into jobs a minute. If we look at these nurses, Brandy here is fantastic for the ward, and we keep Brandy. We've recently just changed, because Brandy was doing all sorts of stuff. I've recently just changed Brandy to only concentrate on the ward, so she'll be there 24/7 unless she's having a break. We've got Nigel here, who is actually geared up for treatment and pharmacy. And so at the moment, out of treatment, we've got the clown clinic, which is will cure people, and we also have pharmacy. So he's having to do 2 jobs, and if we look at this, we've got quite the march between these 2 departments. And then we have Lovecraft here, which I left as an all-rounder, but we're actually going to start building him up in diagnosis. We're going to specialise him in diagnosis so that he can work these 2 rooms. And I think what we could do, given the massive gap here, is possibly have another nurse that might be geared up in treatment, so that we don't have a nurse constantly running back and forth here. Plus, if we look at illnesses, we can see here that we actually get 3 illnesses that go to the pharmacy. So the pharmacy potentially will get busier and busier, and we could do with somebody that focuses on it rather than having to keep running over here. So nurses, we want a treatment. Oh, hello, Belinda. Hello, Belinda. Weak bladder. Thinks their life is a rom-com, charismatic. So they're geared up in treatment and pharmacy. So she'd be a good option. But this one here is actually on treatment only, which is also quite good. Ooh, a natural mentor. A little bit messy, though. Whereas she could work on pharmacy quite nicely as well. So it might be that we're going to employ Belinda here and not worry too much about the weak bladder. You can train in stamina training. Oh no, that regains energy drains at a reduced rate. So I'm not even sure that would help with the weak bladder. Oh well, you just have to hold it, Belinda. The toilets are right here. So I think we're going to employ Belinda as an additional nurse. And if we go into our staff, job assignments. So we know that we're going to want Belinda to also take over these sorts of things. We're going to have these 2 both work those 2 departments because they're both treatment heavy. So Marvin here, hello Marvin, is going to need training in diagnosis. Okay. And he does have a training spot ready to go. Let's also bear in mind that he learns 50% faster than most, which is fantastic because we really need to get somebody working in that department right now. Now, it is an option. We could employ a second nurse just to take over those diagnoses, and we might. But for the moment, let's get his training going in diagnosis. So increase diagnosis skill by 10. Fantastic. And we are going to employ Dr. Gregory Mouse as well to get that going. So that's our nurses. Now we also really need to look at the doctors because we have added another psychiatry and we've added another GP. So that's, a factor. So now nobody is to work on the deluxe clinic for the simple reason that we do not seem to get lightheaded patients coming into this hospital, so we don't need to build the department. So nobody is assigned to work on it. So there's only 3 things here that we need to worry about. And if we can notice here, most of the doctors that I have, well, all the doctors that I have here, are geared up towards diagnosing, which is not the best, because we do have Pan's lab here, which is a treatment facility, and psychiatry does both. So, you know, it's not the best. So I've been through them and we've had a good look. And so we've now, this guy that's been working on psychiatry the entire time, I have now moved him full time to GP. We've got this person here is Penelope, who's a fantastic consultant, senior consultant. So we're going to get her to balance her time between both psychiatry and GP's office. Vladimir here is just all diagnosis. I'm not keen on him. He's not very good at all. So for now, he can solely concentrate on Pan's lab until we can get a better doctor. Because I'm not too keen on Vladimir. I wish really I could untrain him in these things, but there we are, you can't do that. And you can see here that Isabel, she's got GP and some additional diagnosis, so we're going to get her to concentrate on the GP's office. So you can see how it sort of works out. And we've got a second psychiatrist here as well, Pandora, for this office here. So what we're really lacking is a doctor in treatment for Pan's lab. We could really do it with a doctor who's, you know, geared up towards treatment. So let's have a look at doctors. What have we got here? So, look, Jessica, short temper though. Look, she's got short temper, which is not the best, but she does have increased treatment skills. Becomes nasty when unhappy. I guess we'll just have to try and keep her happy. I mean, we do have Kylie here with stamina training, but she's not ready to be trained yet. And I like the fact that Jessica is ready for training. +5 magic. Excellent. If we keep her happy, it shouldn't really be a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop her in there, and we are going to train her in treatment 2. No, we're not. We don't have the doctor to do it. How frustrating. Is that locked for the moment? Am I not allowed to do that for the moment? That's a real shame. That's what I want to do. It's not you, is it? I mean, you're doing a diagnosis right now. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Oh my god, what's happened to her head, everybody? What's happened to her head? Okay, fine. Well, we'll keep an eye on that because I definitely want to gear her up in treatment. I kind of want to get rid of him, but we're going to keep him as a spare dude. And we'll just send her back out. Let's have a look. If we go back into staff, treatment, let's check her job assignments. We are going to have her work in Pan's lab with Vladimir here. And I don't know if it's that I can't unlock treatment 2 in this hospital. It might be that we need research, or I'm not sure. I've got to be honest, I'm not sure. I have unlocked it in other save files and I can't remember how I did it. Cannot remember how I did it. And I do know that some training needed research. Anyway, so let's press play on this. Let's start moving it along. And what we're going to do, now that we've sorted out our staff, is we can open this department and we can open this GP office. Let's get the whole thing moving. I've put the door to this psychiatrist over here because, of course, we want to really focus on getting further diagnosis patients into this GP. I do not want to see them come back to this one at all. I really don't want it. So we can upgrade our easy scan. We should do that, right? We should do that. There it is. This is our easy scan. Look, improved generic standards plus 25% diagnosis power. It would be crazy not to do it. So let's do it. Let's do that.
Maintenance announcement.
Oh no, did the treatment fail? Treatment failed, everybody. Vladimir is not very good. I don't like it. He's not very good. Now, what has happened to that nurse? Where is he? Is it the one that's in training? Could be. Does build up fast, doesn't it? Does build up fast. Yeah, they are absolutely using, right, they really like cardio. So what we're going to do is we are going to hire that second nurse. Somebody cheap and easy. Motivated. They have stamina training, look. Fantastic. This might be good enough for now. So we'll get them on it. And see this person? They're about to die, aren't they? Look, see that? Is it you? They may not make it out the hospital. They may not make it out the hospital. That would be our first death from depleted health, which I'm very upset about. But the rest are in a fairly good order, but we could really do with them leaving the hospital before they die, but I don't think it's going to happen. Don't think it's going to happen. Bit of a shame. Bit of a shame. This is because I sit and I explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing things. That's what it is. Send them straight for cure, please.
In the event of an epidemic, please try not to panic.
While we get everybody in place, doing the things that they need to do.
Maintenance announcement.
So
Plants need water.
he's now going to go to the GP's office, but I am happy with his diagnosis. Now, they are number... Did you see this? Hang on a minute. Right. Oh, we've managed to get them out of the hospital. This person has been diagnosed with misery guts. But she's number 4 in the queue for the pharmacy. So we're going to bump her up to the top because her health is 19. I'm not happy about it. We're going to put him to number 2 in the pharmacy queue. Is the pharmacy occupied right now? It is.
Nurse required in general diagnosis.
Fantastic. And they are now in a sensible order. A treatment failed somewhere. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I'm assuming that this nurse has now gone. Ooh, Beryl is ready for promotion. From student to doctor. Excellent. So the nurse, I think, has gone on break from the ward. I hope that's the reason, at least. Yes. See, she's on break. She's very, very unhappy with her pay. Shall we? That will help. What we can do is we can look at all of our staff and see about their pay. So she was the only one, it turns out. Now, shall we see about a second nurse for in here? A second nurse. So, well, unhygienic immediately puts me off. Not mentally capable. That just means they are slower at learning. We definitely need somebody with ward training. Motivated. Now, see, I like them because they're motivated and motivated. They're doubling up on things here. They've got stamina, so their energy goes down slower. And they've got the ward training. Really like them. So what we're going to do is we're going to employ Dennis here. And we're going to look at the ward and say, hey, we want a second nurse to work here. We're going to allow 2 nurses to work on the ward. That'll be fantastic. And if we come back to our nurses and job assignment. So Dennis here, please just work on there. And, oh yes, Missy. Missy, we want to concentrate for now just on the diagnosis, don't we? So let's just pull her off of those before we forget. She's our temp, isn't she? There we go. There we go. Right. So, was this a treatment failed? This was a treatment failed. Wow.
A ghost has been sighted in the hospital.
Right, so we have managed to get Daisy, just do this slow, managed to get Daisy in for treatment before she died. That's fantastic. He is waiting in the queue. So what I'm doing here is I've just sorted them by low. We can see that people with low are slowly being dealt with. His treatment failed. Aww. Let's send them for treatment as their diagnosis certainty was at 88%. So we'll just send them straight for treatment. Let's see here. They are in further diagnosis. They're in the ward for further diagnosis. They'll end up back here. So the GP's doing a good job because, of course, this is a ward treatment issue. And now their diagnosis, the nurse is fairly sure it is monobrow, but they're going to go to the GP's office. And I don't want them to. I want to try and reduce that as much as possible. So when they come out of here, send for treatment should pop up.
Doctor needed in GP's office.
There it is. And then they can go straight back. They are good. Now, I would be happy to send them for treatment straight away at 83% certainty, but they have already walked in to here. But they're pretty healthy. It's not too bad. Their diagnosis certainty is not good at all. So we're just helping the teething problems of my sudden expansion because, you know, that we have made that a thing. There has been a sudden expansion and we just need to try and let it gain a bit of control over what it's doing, right? What's going on here? Which one are you? The clown? Jack. Interesting. Good. Probably is a good place to send them, right?
You know, I've been humming that tune to myself all week, which is uncanny because I've never heard it before. Or have I? Oh, well, more catchy music coming right up.
At the moment, we've got a lot of doctors on break, so we don't want to panic and employ more doctors, right? We've got a lot of doctors on break. 1, 2, 3. We do have Pleb here, who's walking around doing nothing. Here it says looking for work because I don't like him very much, so I've shunned him. But to be fair, he could work in a GP's office. The reason that I don't like giving him the GP job is because he will then replace a decent GP. That's the problem at the end of the day.
Attention. Urinating anywhere in the hospital will not be tolerated.
He's come out of there. And going back in. Yeah, he just oh, actually, he's now on break. Typical. Yeah, he just won't be very... I don't want him to be in a GP's office over, say, Jonathan here. If Jonathan goes on break and Vladimir takes the spare GP's office, then Jonathan will be lost for work to do, and yet he's better at it than Vladimir. So it does put me off. And with Vladimir on break, I'm inclined to take him off again because it actually does bother me on a rather large scale. It really, really does. So, you know, we're not going to worry about it too much. I think. So if we can just reduce, get through the teething problems, and we'll do some, because of course we've had a bunch of people, training, which is not the best. So we can see here that this is working. People that are needing further diagnosis are actually coming here. They've been for further diagnosis and they're just getting that last visit. It is slowing down what's coming here almost completely. It is working. We've got Raymond here.
As you would hope to find them, not as you would expect to find them.
Hello, Raymond. Would you just go for treatment? It's very low. He may die. He may die. It's a thing. It's a thing. But we just the sudden expansion, because it
In
is
the
a massive
news
expansion,
today,
will bring
conditions at the
so
Rotting
much
Hill
more people
Hospital
into
are
this
getting
hospital.
worse every day.
Bit of a
Apparently,
nightmare.
Patients are just as likely to die from sinkholes
And then
crumbling
everybody went on
ceilings
break.
as any diseases. At least that'll keep the queues down.
Now, where am I? Oh, what we could probably do with actually is employing another janitor. Ooh. Has potential and upbeat. Bit short-tempered, but motivated. Ooh, could be a good all-rounder. Can she sweep up these? Because I think this is just a sweep-up job that anyone can do. Yeah, they don't need ghostbusting to do that. I didn't think so. So let's just have a look at her job assignments, because of course she can't repair machines or anything like that. I'm pretty sure she can unblock toilets. There we go. There we go. That's good. And what's nice sometimes is that I saw somebody over here saying that they needed the toilet, and we had somebody here who was a bit low on entertainment. Those are really good to spot, because it might give you an idea of problems in the hospital in certain locations. He's a bit bored. See what I mean? So it could be that having an arcade machine here might not be a terrible idea. Right, to help reduce that boredom. You know? Bit thirsty, but they were walking past a drinks machine. I mean, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? You know? I can't deal with that nonsense. So
Doctor's GP's office.
yes. So we're getting lots of staff ready for more promotion. This is okay. In that our Ellie has gone for her break and she's now on her way back. So she'll get through that queue. If at any point I saw Ellie was struggling with this queue, we would consider a reception room, or maybe just a second reception desk so that we could get a second person in. But I'm fairly sure that she will work through that queue. But if she didn't, that's how I would deal with it. So it's just slow and steady, and don't panic when you see queues or doctors missing, which is something that you see a lot of, and don't expand too quickly. This was a lot of expansion very quickly, because I will no longer have access to this game until launch now. So this is the last episode for a while until we can actually get hold of the game. The full version of the game. So it's a bit of a shame, but the question is, if you've been enjoying this and plan to watch more of my 2 Point Hospital content in the future, what would you prefer when the game comes out? Would you prefer me to start again, or would you prefer me to continue from where we are now when I get the full version of the game? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you have enjoyed what I have made so far and the way that I'm progressing. I'm trying to play it a little bit differently from a lot of other content creators, trying different ways of diagnosing problems with the hospital and finding new ways to cure them, rather than just sheer volume, which completely and utterly is a method of doing it, you know, building more, expanding quickly. I feel that can lead to the wheels falling off very quickly. I also think that it's a method that won't necessarily fare well in later levels when space becomes an issue, you're dealing with more. I am very much keen on learning how to develop a hospital with quality, even though it's slower and you expand much slower. If you deal with the problems right at the root, then expanding slowly and steadily will absolutely work, and should work for much later levels. And that's the step that I'm trying to make here, is learn while the hospitals are relatively easy. the better way of doing things so that when we get to much later levels in the game, the method still works, and by that point we're well versed in those methods. Take your time, don't rush, expand slowly. Slow and steady, peeps, wins the race. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you did, please hit that like button. As long as you are here, why not check out one of my delectable videos available? Feel free to come stalk me on social media and be sure to share this video with friends so even more may watch my schizwa. See you next time, peeps.